Hi, and welcome to the second masterclass of the 2024 to 2025 series with the MET Orchestra Musicians at Lessonface, featuring Shmuel Katz. I'm Katie Falk-Flores here with Lessonface, where we connect students with great teachers for live lessons and classes. In this masterclass today, we'll have 3 student performance and coaching sessions, followed by a brief Q&A at the end. So please enter questions in the chat box if you have them, and we will address them following the performances. And now Annika Meisel, a student at the University of Delaware, will play the Prelude in Allemand from Suite Number 3 by J.S. Bach.
Bravo, bravo, beautiful playing. Um, I was not sure if I was supposed to be with picture on or picture off when you play, but I was watching. Great playing. So tell me something. When you think about this movement or any of the preludes of Bach, what is kind of like the big picture that you're thinking about?
Um, I think trying to find places where I can take more time because
Hmm.
it's a lot of just straight 16th notes. So finding maybe cadences where I can just take time and not rush through it.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. So the great thing about the suites, if we think about the suite is comprised of a prelude and then dances. With the dances, there is a built-in structure that is generally very straightforward and very easy to follow for me as an audience, for you as a performer. When we get to the preludes, like you were saying, there's straight 16 notes going on for 2 pages. What do we do? How do we make it very clear what's happening there? One I think of the most important things in Bach, if we think about Bach as a composer, is the idea of architecture. How he takes phrases and combines it into bigger things, and then you get the big structure of the whole thing. I want you to let's start from the beginning and start kind of looking into this and try to make more of that structure. And I felt at times you're taking the time of a phrase here and there, but I think that you can show, especially with this one, a lot more. So spots to breathe, harmonic, kind of curves that are fun to show. I think something else that you can think about more is something like dynamics. It's very hard with Zoom, obviously, to get the true dynamics of what you do. Although I have to say this sounds a lot better than what I remember from a couple of years ago. But I think that the structure showing it with dynamic range, I think that really also helps the listener kind of grab onto what you're trying to do. All right. So do you have some dynamic concept, like you write some dynamic ideas at the beginning?
A few. I was wanting to kind of build to the second measure, the open C string.
Hmm.
Um, the next one I have written in is like somewhere. I have it as with the cello part underneath, so I have 3 pages, but it's somewhere in the middle of my first page where it kind of shifts to a different like bowing and
Right,
part.
right. No, the bowings you were doing were terrific. Especially I like this measure 45 that you start doing with twos and with different things. It's very well played, and I think that the only thing that will give you that more of that shape and more of that kind of accessibility. I mean, you think of your typical audience. For me, I get very sensitive to this. Now I play in the pit. I don't see the audience that much. But when you play on stage, since I was a kid, I was very sensitive to people losing their patience because you start seeing them scratching something, moving their foot. And I find with the dances, the Allemande, all of these, there's something about the way it's written that's kind of like built in. And it's built in to keep things moving, to keep things interesting, easier for the audience to follow. When it's whether it's da ba di ba di ba di ba, all of these preludes, unless you help a little bit more with the shape, you're going to get the audience starting, checking out their new shoes or whatever they do because they start getting, they can't follow. So let's start from the beginning and play for me, you know, let's just play the first 2 bars. Not even the first 2 bars. Play for me from the beginning until the C, the first introduction of this, the key that we're in. Good, good. All right. So it's a grand introduction. C major, right? This is with Bach, it's a pretty cool concept if you think about it. He wrote the sonatas partitas for violin. Violinists at the time could do all kinds of crazy stuff. Cello would sit next to the harpsichord and perhaps a bassoon, just playing some harmony. All of a sudden, you say, "Hey, look at me." In the first introduction of Look at Me, it's let's listen to how kind of grand the instrument sounds with those beautiful open strings and the big, we obviously are borrowing, but I want you to think about that as introduction. Now, the other thing that I want you to watch out for and this is one of the dangers of these repeated 16 notes, that we need to think of hierarchy of these 16 notes. So the danger, and it's a technical thing, but I think that if you visualize it a little bit more, I think then you'll have more of the direction. There is it can go like this a little bit, and I'm going to exaggerate it just to make it a little more obvious, so it's not in any sort of way how you play it, but just to show you. Okay, that's one option, and then we have something more like. See, so what I'm trying to do, using the bow, the amounts of bow, I am creating that motion towards that C, which is, again, this is the second bar is when we say, hey, look at my C string. Listen to this. All right, so watch out a little bit from 16 notes sounding like, we're playing in, what's 3 times 4? 12 16 notes bar rather than 3. Dee da da dee da dee da 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 da. So we have this long line. Try it one more time. Yes, yes, that's a lot better already. Okay, so there's that shape. We're finishing that bar. Now, let's keep going. Start from the second bar. And what I want you to do, try for me, and tell me if you see it differently. But I'll just, because of the time constraint, I want you to try and kind of follow my idea here. We are going here. It's almost like a slow climb up a hill, right? So we're going to different, different steps up, but it's not, obviously we're not step up, but it's more for going up a hill. And then we're finishing again with another C. So he's giving us the small C major scale down, and then it's like showing off his, he would write these pieces. He would get commissioned by cathedrals that just finished building up a new organ. In the introduction to some of these pieces would be showing off the equipment, basically writing stuff for the highs, for the lows, to show the how diverse and how interesting the organ is. This, he's doing that with you. So he's doing it in one straight scale down, basically, and then we're doing a climb back up and down just to show again. So that let's play that second phrase and try again. Think about the 16 notes leading you quarter to quarter, bar to bar, rather than one at a time. All right, in really the spots, like when we're climbing a hill, it's not exactly this way, but we have a little bit of a kind of a wavy climb up. Okay, so let's try. You can just start from the beginning. It's fine. Yeah, that was something. Now, can you do that same phrase with the same with the same shape, but without stopping to rest yet? We want to save our rest time for those big moments, okay? Take us on the ride to this beautiful mountain, but without stopping to look at the trees on the side and this and that. Just keep the motion going, okay? So one last time, the same thing. That was great. That was great. And then we have our two phrases, the short one and the longer one. And now we're starting with actually the entree in this prelude. One thing just to just kind of a little bit of a concern. It's not a big one, but just something to think about when you're trying to move the phrase da dee da 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 dum, and you're doing a nice crescendo with that. Try not to rush them. the notes, okay? So the same way we're trying to avoid the slowing down, we also don't want one of those kind of drivers taking us up the hill, okay? Just enjoy the shape of this. Okay, now we are starting from, this is measure 7. We are starting sequence, right? It's a new thing. Now, tell me, how do you see this sequence? Like the shape, the number of bars for each part. Are we going up? We're going down. How do you envision this?
Um, I think 2 bars for each sequence. Um, it's kind of going down, so I guess maybe getting a little bit quieter.
That's great. So bars 1 and 2, you're saying are connected, right? Good. That's what I wanted to hear. That's very good. So start a little bit more, like you're saying, but let's really try and show. I'll tell you if you're overdoing it. All right? But make it very clear to the audience. You know, 2 bars at a time. Again, without rushing, but just to show more of that shape. Okay? Can you start directly from that bar? From measure whatever it is, 7? Good, good. That was very good. Now let's add to this one more thing. So again, with Bach and the architecture, we're thinking about big blocks, smaller blocks, and then you have like all this stuff that is I would say it's like more decoration, right? So we have all these different things that happen in Bach music. And what's very special about what he does with the cello suites, especially, you know, with the violin suites, partita sonata, sorry, there's a lot of chords, a lot of double stops. The technique back then, the 1720s, was so developed on the violin, they could do all these crazy, you know, polyphonic stuff. For the cello, not so much. So he is showing us different aspects of music. When we think about different aspects of music, think about piano, for example. The left hand does the harmony, right hand does the melody. This is not you know not a rule, but it's kind of like the concept of this. When we are getting to these kind of bars, like measure 7, he's giving the cello or us the violas basically both things. We have a right hand, right? And then we have left hand. Right hand. All right. So I think that within that, and I again, I'm sorry if I'm confusing, but there's a fine balance in Bach between the continuation of the ride until the rest stops, and the little things inside, you know, those little ideas inside that they're almost like when we analyze Beethoven, these small fragments of stuff that we can appreciate. Can you try and play for me from 7 one more time, those 6 bars with the same shape that you did, a big picture shape, but not, let's get zoom in um, to the melodic versus the harmonic and how they work together with this, okay? Good. The third one was great. The third one was great. And you know what I find helpful for us, for you know, for us with our ears to recognize the you know the characteristic or what you're trying to show is has to do also with the length of note and the direction of the note. So when we think about the melodic one, again, we have a mini hill there, right? We're going up and down. When we're going with the harmony, the harmonic one, right? That's the line that's important. The C is not as important. So if we think about this, I'll show you the kind of the way I see this. So I'm showing people more importance to the harmony line than the those the offbeat ones. Okay, so maybe if you think about down up, a little bit more kind of a little bit more in, a little bit more sustain on the down bow, so we hear it more than the up, so we can really recognize the fact that it's different. Okay, can you try one more time? Very nice. In something I must have say that could be controversial with some people. I find when we talk about vibrato in Bach, I find that some people are totally say no, some people say yes. I always say maybe some. And the point for vibrato in Bach for me is to show things like in a spot like this, in a movement of running 16 notes. If I have an important 16 note I want to show, or if I want to show different texture, I will think about vibrato there. So even if I can't hear it that much, if I'm thinking about the vibrato for these, just a little bit, just a little bit to show that this is just a little different thing. Okay, so that's the kind of things that I think that you need to show more. I think that you have it. I think that you know these so well. Let's keep going a little bit. Do you prefer? I saw that you have the Allemande as well. Do you want to play some Allemande as well?
Sure.
Why don't we do the Allemande, and we can talk about this because unfortunately a half hour flies by. So play it without the repeats, okay? Good. Very good. Very, very good. So what can you tell me about the Allemande as a dance, and what are you trying to show here?
I'm definitely trying to emphasize beats 1 and 3. Um, Trying to have lighter up bows and down bows.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess at the end, trying to make like the last few measures um, more of like a tag to the after that C.
Okay, good. But in terms of so I know the structure of the Allemande, we're thinking more first beat, third beat. Anything else about the character? Like if you were putting this to a soundtrack to a movie, what scene were we in? Would be in?
Um, I guess I kind of imagine it's like a slower walk or dance than like some of the other movements. Like the current is much faster, I would say, but
Right.
this maybe the
Right.
flow.
This the interesting thing about this one. All right. So the idea of the Alemán, it's a German-based dance. It's a slow dance, and it was more aristocratic kind of dance. It's not one of those that you hop around. It's one of those that I always envision people with really big wigs, sipping champagne from those the old-fashioned glasses. It's not necessarily the most exhausting dance. You know what I mean? And not necessarily written for dancers. But there is a concept of movement throughout it. And I agree with you. Courant is the complete opposite. That's something for the peasants, and they're drinking beer and they're hopping and they're having a good time. It's very, very different from the Alemán. So I think that throughout this, in what Bach does in this particular one, again, he's taking the structure off of that Baroque dance, and he's adding so many extra notes. This is very much like his keyboard music. But I think the big picture of every phrase really needs to be going with that dance direction. And I wouldn't worry because there's so many notes here, so much about weight on the first and third beat, but more about thinking about the general direction of this in what you want to do with the separate 16 notes. So we have every time phrase starts, right, we have these notes here. Every time we're starting with these 316 notes, if you look at any Alemán, in honestly any dance, it starts with a bit of a pickup to give us the character of what we're looking for in the actual dance later. So before you start, think about where you want to be with the character, where you want to be with the tempo. Bum, 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 bim, and then lead to that with those 316 notes. And whenever you have, every time that you have those separate 16 notes, I think that that's what brings the dance into it. Otherwise, we get a little bit, sitting on the couch rather than getting up and showing off our beautiful new wig. Can you start it one more time from the top with just a little bit more energy? It's elegant, it's aristocratic, but it's got energy. You're a wealthy lady there, showing off your new dress. Let's say one more time. Sorry. One more time. So what I see that you're doing that is very, I appreciate that you're doing that. You're not using too much bow on the slurred down bow because you don't want to get out of the place for the separate 16 notes, right? We don't want to do that too much, right? Now, I agree 100% with that, but I want you to think about those down bows every time a little bit, giving yourself space for that separate note. I don't want it to sound like, but each time just with a little bit of a tail on them, so that those 16, the separate ones, are what gets the texture. If you think about this piece as a piece for harpsichord, for a keyboard of the time, harpsichord, the keys are, the strings are plucked. There's a little plucking mechanism there. So every time that we have these separate notes, they have a little bit of teeth. They have a little bit of texture. Okay, so let's think a little bit more harpsichordy for the beginning. Okay, one more time, just the beginning. And I think after that, yeah, we have like a minute left. Okay, I must stop you. The second beat and the third beat of that first bar was exactly what I want. Okay, so the separate notes, it's not, but so the separate notes have a little bit of texture. It will be nice because it also brings out the smoothness of all these 30-second notes and the slurs, but that's great. Brava. I think we need to move on to the next, my next victim. Beautiful playing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That was wonderful. We really appreciate having your performance today.
Yeah, great playing.
Up next, we have Aneška Kropova, a student at the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, Czech Republic, who will perform the first movement of Sonata for Viola, Opus 106 by Philip Schwarzenka.
All right. Hello there. So, can you tell me until where you want to play? I see the whole sonata actually is like a one go. How far are you playing?
I don't know if you have the same print as I do, but it's the second page allegretto. That's
Oh, until the
where the
allegretto?
second. That's where the second movement starts. Yes.
Oh, okay. Excellent. All right, great. Beautiful playing. Beautiful playing. I'm sure most of our viewers here have never heard anything by Philip Charvinka. Um, Anything you want to tell us? Is there a particular reason why you're playing this piece?
Well, I found it recently in
Uh-huh.
I don't know, February or so. Just it was a random find, and for me, it was really interesting that it sounds a little bit like Dvořák. And Dvořák never wrote anything for viola, which we are still mad about.
Although he
So
played the
that's why
viola,
I
right?
love. Sorry?
He played the viola, I think, Dvořák,
He played the
right?
viola. He was a
But he didn't write them.
violist, and
Yeah,
he wrote nice like viola solos in quartets, but never
that's it. Yeah.
something solo for viola.
Hmm. Well, maybe good for him. A lot of these composers, they write pieces for viola and then they die too young. So maybe he was thinking about his
That's
own
true.
health. But I was fascinated with this. I've heard about this piece, but I never played it. And what was striking to me in is not so much the Dvorak aspect, but it's somewhere between, because you look at the years as well. You have the kind of the late, almost Italian romantic opera composers like a Puccini and a Verdi, something with turmoil and passion, and then you have something like Vietan, that was a Belgian violinist and violist, and he wrote a lot of music very similar to this. What is especially fun about this particular piece? I looked him up. He was actually a pianist, but the part for the piano in this piece. Have you played it yet with piano?
Not yet, but I know the
Yeah.
piano part.
I
Yeah.
think that once you play it with piano, you'll get it more because the great thing about this one, we have cadenza stuff, and then we have the non-cadenza stuff. All of it has very very little piano accompaniment. It's just kind of giving the harmony, keeping some of the beat, but it's nothing complicated about the ensemble. So I
Yes.
think that for you, two things are really you really have to think about them. It's number one, you never have to force the sound. So like at the spot before where you stopped, where it's super dramatic and you kind of digging in, that's great. But I think some of the other stuff, even if it says fortissimo, think about it more as a big dynamic rather than, oh, it's fortissimo, I have to show fortissimo, you know? Go more with the emotion of the music and what the scene, kind of the musical scene is telling you. The other thing that's great because of this piano, lack of piano, ensemble issues, is that it can take even more time. And I think that the timing that you can take, especially this is for me, playing operas day and night. Um, One thing, we forget about that little machine that goes, there's forget about the metronome. The singers have kind of an internal rhythm, those that do, an internal rhythm that I find that goes a lot with the words, goes a lot with the character, but also goes with the intervals. And I think that when you have any sort of big jump, I know for us, it's, right across the street. It's very easy. But for a singer, I'm not going to try and demo, but it takes that extra time. So I think that whenever you have, and these are little fine things. I mean, you played it very 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 well. I think you can actually, in the stuff that is not the cadenza, you can sing more. So what I want you to because beginning was terrific. Can you play from the lento in the third line and try to imagine? I don't know if there's some words in Czech you can fit in there. I'm sure it'll be beautiful, like the undiscovered Dvorak opera, but just a little bit more operatic. And if you're not familiar with the music of Vietnam, it's that period. There was like the 1880s, 1890s, and there would be these salons, these small gatherings, usually kind of wealthy people sitting drinking, in a superstar pianist. It could have been, it's past Chopin, but like Paderewski or whatever, or Vietnam playing for these ladies, and they're all with the smelling salt because they're fainting from how beautiful they play. I want you to have a little bit more of that magic in there. Okay, so let's start and right from the lento. Think about its sound. It says piano, but espressivo. So don't press the sound. Just give it a lot of something in it. Okay, it needs to be very, very alive. Good, good, good. Let's stop right there. So that was a lot better already. Now, he's doing something with the rhythm that is really fun. In I think that you're being a little too organized about it. I think it's more, music of Chopin? Chopin,
Oh,
Frédéric Chopin, the pianist. You know Chopin, right?
yeah.
Yes. Think more that. So you're never set with a real beat. So even if you have just a little more fire in there. Okay, so I know you're trying to keep the tempo not from getting too fast, but think about the direction of the tempo. It's never. I was honestly I was a little disappointed because like not in you in the Sharvenka, um, when I was listening to this and looking at the score, because for me that lento needs an accompaniment like a Chopin, something with a little bit more. Because it doesn't have that, you need to inject it with even more magic potion, something. Okay, try one more time and play around. So both things. I want you to play around a little bit with the tempo. So be a little bit more kind of ad libitum, a little more operatic. And also, even if you have this, take your time into that G. You're a pianist will be able to catch you. Any pianist, promise. Yes, yes, that was great. That was great. Let's add one more thing. Thank you. I'm getting you out of your comfort zone a little bit. That's good. We're breaking into. But let me add one more thing. So the other thing I think that brings out character in this music in this particular spots is those syncopations. So for example, um, this rhythm, even in this, for example, it seems kind of like what's happening. It's nothing too interesting, but treat those separate eighth notes kind of to propel you musically to show a little bit more of the character. Pa pom pa instead of pom 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 pom. Invite each one of those, and even more so when you have this, or anytime that you have these syncopation, yum, bum, ba, bum, make sure that the timing, and again, this is very easy to do with the piano writing here. It would have been a little more complicated if it was like a Hindemith that he adds all these notes. Make it seem like that. I always say that the asthma of love. It's that when Song of Love, and you're trying to take a breath, but your stomach doesn't allow you to take a full comfortable breath. You take like this, that kind of breath. So I want that first eighth note to feel that. So it's never set as, you don't have time for that. You're trying to say something beautiful to whoever it is. So it's always alive, always fluid, you know. Okay. One last time, that thing in add for me, and I was saying it, earlier to Annika, but when we play with Zoom, it's very hard to take dynamics into consideration 100%, because it's kind of, although it sounds great, but play around now with the dynamics. He's writing some stuff. So the first phrase, when piano, right? And even though we go up to that sforzando, back down. So we're still not, there's love in the air, but we're not confident yet. And with each one of these, there's a little bit more confidence until you get, then you finally there. Okay. So let's just build it up a little bit more. One more time. That's great. That's great. And it gives it a lot. It's so much more alive this way, unfortunately with this music, and it's beautiful music. Don't get me wrong. And I always loved Vietnam. I think it's an era that I would have loved to go hang out in one of those parties, because it's just something so magical about it. And the food must have been amazing. But I want you to bring that to life a little bit, like something like from a movie of a different era, some more of that golden, like the curtain behind you. Think of it being gold, like what's his name? Like more golden. You're surrounded by gold. Good. Now let's get to the moderato tranquillo. So we have this something very different than what we had before. How do you envision this character-wise? We don't want it to sound pari kreutzer etude, right?
Yeah, I would like it to be like a sound happy and like free, more free.
Free,
'Cause,
yes.
when I play this, there are these two in a floor, and it sounds not good. Like
I don't
it
think it
sounds
didn't
too
sound
heavy
good.
when I play it, I think.
Okay, so let's start directly from there. I like the happy aspect of this. I think that if we had something with all that passion and stuff like that, this is something simpler. I think it's not just that it's happy, but it's like, something comfortable. And I want you to be comfortable with those uppos. So the trick with these uppos, I think, and we can do it once. Actually, why don't you play it once slowly? The issue is two things. We have a string crossing, right? You're playing on different string, right?
No.
Oh, you're doing a shift. That's why.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so even if you do a shift, doesn't matter. I want you to think about the last note before that. Da-dee-da-dee-da-dum. A little bit shorter. And then quickly try to get the index finger for the uppo with the second finger for the B flat. Okay? Can you go slowly a little bit, so and really kind of get there? Don't start playing right away, but just try to get there, both hands at the exact same time for that uppo. Yeah, and and a little faster, the same idea. And you can be a little bit lighter. I think that part of the fun of this one, if we were talking about more connectivity before, all of that, this is more simple. So I think that the pairs, that's why I actually like more. I think for me it's a little bit more happy than here. But if you do it here, it's totally fine. Think that way too. It's in twos, in pairs. So you can catch that. So less feel of that you have to play on the string, and think more. It's almost like all of a sudden we're playing something closer to a Bach or to maybe a Johann Christian Bach, but something lighter with the release of the bow. Can you try one more time? Good, good, good. That's the idea. And even more, I would think wherever you are. Okay. So lighter, a little bit lighter with the hand here. I think just to help you with those releases. One more time, and keep going if I don't stop you. Good. Very good. Very good. And then we're going back to our that. So can you make with this, with the lightness of this, I didn't get enough sense of where that crescendo is going on the second bar. So we're starting light, right? So we had this kind of extreme emotional something happening there. And then all of a sudden, and we think, oh, this is going to be nice, but it takes us about four bars to go back to that. So we're starting beautiful start. So more of that shape, and I think that you can actually, you can make more direction in terms of the speed of this. So I don't want you completely to break your metronome, but just think a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. So it to help you with that crescendo. Okay. One more time. That's great. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, sorry. Quiet. All right, second lento. Okay, so let me ask you something. And this is something that I probably will be uncomfortable fingering wise, and probably will not be 100% in tune. I'm just but I want you to at least get the sense of the feel of it and the timing of this. Can you play for me that same phrase now from the lento? Now, every time that you have a shift of a tritone, play it on the same string. So what I want, that's fine. Okay, and then the same. So each time go up the string. If you miss a note, I don't care. What I want is when you go back to your fingerings, that you have that feel of that interval. You understand? That it's not, tritone for us is the easiest thing in the world. So two fingers next to each other. But the stickiness of that, if you think about it vocally, so I'm starting to lose that, but I want you to have that. So try once. Don't be afraid if you miss some notes. Okay, it's totally fine. But just try it with that same string thing. Ah, you're not daring. You miss. You know, the what we do for a living is not dangerous. If you're a pilot or a doctor and you try something like this, you might kill somebody. But for us, what's the worst that's going to happen? One note missing. But, all right, so that was great. Thank you for trying this. Now go back to your fingering, and I want you to feel the same anxiety of getting up there, but without getting up there. The same timing, the same feel of the interval, and also when you get to that one. All right, so it's not so easy. Okay, each interval. This is the world of opera, but I think this music, that period, and you see the corresponding how opera developed around that same time. And honestly, it's not just opera. You look at Tchaikovsky or whatever. The intervals mean so much, and they were all thought vocally. And even if you think about a keyboardist, a pianist, trying to make a leap like this, that sixth is a bit of a reach, unlike the steps next to each other. So play for me that phrase one more time, and again remember those separate 8 notes. Each one of them means something to the next thing that is happening. That's great. That's great. Let's add to this one more thing on this phrase here in the pianissimo. So I think that you can even do more of this. I don't know if you get the recording. They're recording this. Just listen to what you do. But the timing of the intervals, I think it's something that is so important. And every instrument has their own challenges, But and I always tell my student, do this in the privacy of your own practice room, but don't be ashamed to sing to yourself. I know we don't want to necessarily sing to our friends, but for yourself, when you have this big jump, see the timing, feel the timing. It's something that is like a physical thing. It's a timing to get from place to place. It takes time. Now, the same idea of this, we get to hear. So he's saying the same thing twice, right? There's that. Now we're going the octave. So there's no marking in the music as crescendo or more expressive or something. But I think that you can allow yourself to not treat them, because I know the whole bar, there's no marking of anything. And it's just said to be tender. But I think you can be more, show more. So there's an interval and then there's a bigger interval. It's like, whoa. It's like with Bach, for example, he does a chord like a double stop, and then we have a chord with 3 notes, and then we have a chord with 4 notes. And it could be the same harmony, but he added another note. If this was in a big, big organ, all of a sudden you get, whoa, this big sound. So I want you to think about the intervals with this movement. I think we have to stop, but whenever you have this, really feel when it's step by step, when we're going more melismatic, and when you go more intervals, and think what to do with it. Because I think the timing in this one, because it's a really cool piece. It's really fun, and it's written really well for the viola as well. So, bravo, beautiful playing.
Thank you.
Explore, okay? Have fun with it. Bravo.
Yes, that was beautiful, Anishka. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you,
Really
Anishka.
appreciate it. Up next, we have Grayson Geisness, a student at Interlochen Arts Academy, who will perform the first movement of the Viola Sonata by Rebecca Clark.
Hey, Grayson.
Hi.
So, would you like to play the whole movement, or you want to play like the first 2 pages? How long is that
Do you
first
mind if I
movement?
perform the whole thing, or?
Of course, play it. Love hearing it. Oh, wow. Beautiful playing. You've played this with piano, I feel.
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have the sense of the timing and all that. Very, very good. So tell me something about how you feel about this piece. What's happening here?
Um, to me, it's like fairy tale. Um, I like to think it's kind of like it's a character, and for me, it's a guy because I'm a guy. I like to picture myself. Um, but the character's not really a hero. He's more of like think of like what were they called? They were called like the people that bard. They were like a bard. They went around and they were like romantics, And so he like goes through this story of like exploring these different places, and he's like very emotional about the places.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. Just played an opera about something like that yesterday. A troubadour, they used to call them. Good. Excellent. So how are you showing? Let's go then a little bit about one little story at a time. Start for the beginning. What's happening for you in the beginning?
It's, I mean, everyone says it's a trumpet call, and so I've kind of adapted, like, used that. I kind
Uh-huh.
of think of it like it's a trumpet call, like introducing the story.
Okay.
And yeah.
So the trumpet is a rhythm, obviously, but I want you to. This is something. I mean, you think about when I think about this piece. I don't the kind of a little bit of background from you with this piece. If you think that she wrote it in 1919, the two other great viola pieces that were written the same year. I don't know if you know, but it's there's a Hindemith sonata, of course. He wrote pretty much every year. In the what his name is Bloch. It's also from that same year. And for me, that year, there's something post World War I. There's the impressionistic. There's a lot of these things, and I think that you hear a lot of this. There's some Ravel in here. There's some all kinds of stuff. Um, with Impetuoso, with the way it's starting with those rhythms, I think the rhythms throughout they kind of carry us through the story. So I think the rhythms have to be really thought through, and sometimes they're good. Sometimes you exaggerate them to one way or another that really affects the way it carries itself. But let's start from the beginning, and think for me, the piano is not coming in until a few notes later. Ba bum ba bum. Do your trumpet thing. Don't force the sound. You're on the A string, so the A string is going to be loud anyway. Think more grand, more open, more like you're saying introduction rather than you don't want people to you start and you go like this. They want them to go like this. They want them to come to you. Okay, start one more time, just with that in mind. Good. Now, the issue I have with this particular bowing is that the E gets a big lift. And I think that the fun thing about it, and again, like a trumpet, pa-pam, 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 you have short, long, short, long. Can you try with the bowing that you're doing to hold the E just a little bit, pa-pam, pa-pam, a little more introductory that way. So less lift on the E.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so try maybe a little bit, one second, try a little bit higher in the bow because we don't need to do, right? We don't need that much. A little bit higher in the bow. Where's my bow? Here. Okay, so little bow to the up.
Oh. So that's still
That's
too
better.
much though.
That's better. But even more pa-pam, taka 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 ta pa-pam, pa-pam. Try for me one time, just for giggles here. Up down, up down. Just try once. Up down, up down. So both up, down.
Up, down. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Good. But it's still pa-pam, 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 pa-pam. Good, good, good. Now with the down bow, the same sound.
Okay.
Yeah, but a little longer on the E. Pa-pam, not pa-pam, pa-pam. Okay? Yeah. Exactly, exactly. Now let's keep going. That's great. So then you brought us in, and it's without kind of any sharp motion. You know what I mean? Pa-pam, pa-pam. It's this rather than da-da, these lifts or digging in. Those two kind of distract from the what's happening next. Now let's just keep going. Let's start again and keep going. Good. Now, let's discuss those 16 notes. I've heard this version a lot. Ta-pi-da-pi-dum. The way I see it, the way I feel it, the fact that she wrote, and this is something I always tell my students, ink is expensive. If a composer writes stuff on the music, and most composers, they don't make a ton of money. So they waste all this money to do these markings. Every time that you have these 460 notes, there's a line on each one of them, right? For me, this feels like not ta pi da pi da, but it's ta pi da pi da, pa pi da ba da, just a little bit more brush. Can you try? And again, everybody has their own interpretive idea about this, and there's not enough time for me to just like, give you my entire spiel. But can you try just to play that first phrase, sorry, until the low E, and play exactly rhythmically what she asked for? So we have tam pa pam pa pam, the 16 notes, ta di da di dum, and then triplet ti da da di da, quarter quarter, ti da da di da dum, just what she wrote. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So that's our basic rhythm. Now from there, obviously, there's not much going on the piano. We can take time. We can do stuff with that. But I don't want. It's like with the. It's something I always think about with like the modern artists that they do a picture of a circle with a line, and it's like, whoa. Most of them actually went to school to study art, and they know actually how to make a sketch.
Yeah.
but that's the artistic choice. So I want you to come from the basics to this and then explore from there, you know? So if we come in that the 16 notes are a little more heavy impetus, and then from there we want to play around with the time, that's fine. But if I hear every single time long and then three short, that as an audience member, think of an audience member sitting there with with sheet music like this, solfeging whatever you just played. You don't want them to have the wrong rhythm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want it to be. So let's start do that same phrase one more time with this in your mind, the rhythm in your mind. Now add some grace into it. Make it yours. Okay. Add, change, have fun with it, but with that basic idea. Okay? Try.
Okay.
That's great. Did you feel like, you know, strapped to something, or did it feel comfortable?
There were parts of both.
Parts of both. Okay. All right. So yeah, I think the 16 notes it's in you to do the da pi da dum. Let me give you another suggestion, because the problem is, all right, so it's two things. It's a musical thing. Obviously, she asked for those 16 notes with the dashes. Number two, it's a technical thing, because what happens when you do that rhythmical thingy that you do, the second, third, fourth notes get very, very, very little bow. Can you play again from the beginning, and when you get to that second bar with those separate 16 notes, do your rhythm, do whatever you want to do, but try more bow on those second, third, fourth note. You know what I mean? So if this is just a little bit more, because those 16 notes, if you look at the music, even in the quiet sound, there's a character in this. There's something in it. It's not it's something more. And then we reduce the amount of bow. We just shrink it as well. Okay. So try again. I have a feeling that the 16 notes are the ones that bothered you. Try, but with a little bit more bow as you play these.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. I still think that this is something I hate being picky about it, but to start, that theme comes back so many times that it's nice to think about it. Pa-pam, pa-pam, whatever you choose to do with this. Actually, it's not just that one. I'll tell you. The rhythm, if it's a trumpeter, good trumpeter, hopefully, pa-pam, pa-pam, they don't have dambo apo, right? They have just that rhythm. So whatever you choose to do with the dambo apo, it's to make that rhythm. The same idea when you have this. Those triplets, octave lower, I want you to have the same timing and the same that the audience will understand you saying the same thing. But the second time you're saying it a little, with more relaxing the tempo. But I find that technically with the fingers, they get like different speed thing. I want you to really think when there's something repeating in this music, to make it obvious enough that it's repeating. You can make it play different. Do you understand? I know it sounds a little confusing, but we're saying something, but it's clear enough that we're saying the same kind of thing. The rhythm should be repeating itself.
Okay.
But in different ways, dynamically, musically, direction, whatever. Okay, let's do the beginning one more time, that phrase. Fantastic, fantastic, really beautiful playing. I think it's great. You're so thoughtful with this piece, and you have such a great. It feels like it's like you feel the piece. So I hate suggesting too many things contradicting what you do, but I'm going to bother you for another 10 minutes with this. So it's just try to follow a little bit. So when we get to that ad libitum stuff, I want you to really try to feel what she's doing here, and you did great in the following line, the stuff. Great. It's like almost like we have these waves, whether it's like getting us kind of to the mood of the story that you want to say or whatever, but the slur, I don't think you need to touch it in any sort of way. So one, two, it's like the rhythm and this doesn't really matter, but I hear a little bit of stuff. Make it sound like almost like you're improvising this thing. There's no triplet, 16 notes, just a little bit more that. And then we get, then we kind of splitting the atom or the whatever it is. It's like the earth started and there's like this, and it's like starting to get shapes of different things. Okay. Can you play it directly from there after the long E? Good, good, good. Yeah. Can you stay soft more? So if you look at it this way, so this bar we have piano with a crescendo, right? Now this one you have a crescendo at the end of it. Now another crescendo. Now mezzo forte. So with all these crescendos that she's writing 3 crescendos. We're only getting to a mezzo forte. So I think it's still kind of nighttime. So whatever the crescendo are, it's just a little bit of light, but we're not there yet. We're going to get there before 1. That's that. Okay. So still kind of a little bit more of that. Don't take those crescendos too seriously. Yeah, that's great. So what I think that is really nice with this, and this is something actually, if you think of the same period, there's Schwanendreher of Hindemith and a lot of this kind of music. Um, the between world wars, people, it was I think people were a mess. Um, they're going between the rhythmical kind of structure of like a military pum pa pum pa 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 pum pa pa, this kind of stuff, and then the Debussy Ravel of this impressionistic these clouds. And you can look at it whichever way you want to look at it, but I think with this music it's really important whenever you have this. Where's the other one? In the second page, right? uh, it should sound like the kind of sound that your teacher tells you not to play, like a sound with less it's okay to enjoy having more of that once in a while, and then when you go back to the more rhythmical, a little more square kind of playing, do it. And it creates a lot more of that variety, which is nice, and it's actually easier to play when we don't always have to be there all the time. Kind of thing. We have like 5 more minutes. if there's a particular spot I want, yeah, before the end, there was something I wanted to talk to you about actually. Yeah, so let's jump to 14. All right, so with 14, we have Calmato, which is nice because it's the first time in a piece that he's showing us 30-second, she's showing us, sorry, 30-second notes. And then she's saying, all right, just calm down. It's okay. You know, that, that's not cool. That's really kind of mean. But I want you to try first of all, you don't need to be in the sounding point here. It's okay to be a little out of that. But try to make it more, I, let's say, I'm hearing more definition of first note and then the other. That. Can it sound again like more like the first whatever it is, the second day of the earth creation thingy with a little bit more of that, so a little bit more even between the notes, so when you change harmony maybe show a little bit, but don't lean on wah. If you look at it, like if for example, if we do this in Bach, you know, and there's a lot of these in the this kind of, you know, stuff in like in the chaconne and stuff like that. Not so much in the cello suites. It's nice to show harmonic changes. If you look at 14, he's going back to E. The 2 bars of E and then 2 bars of C. So the bass line is not all that interesting. You know, it's not one of those that we have to show in it, show in it. It's more, again, it's the dusk kind of feel. Can you try that just without showing so much? So when you change to the C on the 3rd bar, maybe you can show a little bit, but timing wise, just a little bit smoother between the strings.
Can I do that bar before?
Of course. It's better. And you know, the 2 bars every time when the C is the bottom, it sounds more even. When it's the E, it doesn't sound as even. So I'm wondering, and this is something, take it to your teacher. This is not something I can tell you to change right now, but I feel more comfortable starting this at 14 on second position rather than first position. Because I find that first finger and not dealing with fourth finger and then changing. Sorry. So staying without using the fourth finger for the first bar of this might be easier for you in terms of that string crossing thing, because I think that getting the fourth finger in that awkward position for the hand, I know it's awkward. The other thing is, if you think, and I'm you know, it's completely against the regular sound that I like, but for this I think it's really good. A little even further away from the fingerboard, slightly more bow, less pressure, and less hair. So there's more air in the sound. So then there's less attention to the notes in case there's some awkward finger tripping over another finger. I know it's written very awkwardly. Okay. All right, so that's something for you to think about. Mm-hmm. Generally, very, very, very good playing, and I love the fact that when I hear you, I hear other students that do that you hear playing by themselves, you can really get a sense that you are very familiar with the piano part. And that's something that I always try to get my students as much time with the pianist as possible, even if they start the piece, because it just makes you live this. It's the same when we're talking about orchestra excerpts, auditioning for an orchestra. If you have the piece in your mind and you're just playing part of it, even smaller part than in Rebecca Clark's sonata, you feel that piece. You feel as like you're part of it. It's like virtual reality a little bit, and it makes a huge difference for timing, for all that kind of stuff. So that I really appreciate that you so prepared with this piece. Great, congrats. I think we're done.
Thank you so
Katie,
much.
Yes.
back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grayson. I love this piece. So it's a joy to get to hear you play it today and get to hear you and Shmuel work on it. So I would like to say before we move on to questions, just thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, participating in this masterclass. Thank you to performers, especially to Shmuel for the inspiring coaching today. If you do have questions, please make sure they're in the chat now as we're going to be going over theirs quickly with a couple minutes left to spare. So can I first ask about the orchestral program, performance program teaching you do at Manhattan School of Music? So this is something Annika was very interested in too. So
Mhm.
in terms of also preparing for orchestral auditions, I'm sure this is something that you deal with a lot. General advice, thoughts, what should we do when we're preparing for like performances or orchestral auditions?
How much you said? 2 minutes?
No, we'll try to we'll try to keep it short. Yeah.
All right. So
Just
so the program at Manhattan School is great because we have, besides the lessons, and I work with the students on excerpts and on preparing. We have outside master classes. There are a lot of great orchestras that visit New York, and we find people in those orchestras that come to spare a couple of hours and give a master class, which is, it's always refreshing. Um, excuse me. There is mock auditions, so people from outside come and help with that. There are a lot of little things. Um, you get coached by a lot of very experienced orchestral people. Um, my career is kind of, it's been kind of a weird thing because I got my job at the Met in my 40s, and I went through a lot, and I've had other jobs, but I've been on both sides of the screen, you know, and I really feel like I with that I learned about the preparation, about what to listen for, being on the blind spot, the other side of the screen. Um, you know, I think that as preparing for an audition, I think being organized is extremely important. I think you need to know the pieces. I think you need to know what's in the music, style, whatever, whenever the pieces were written. And I think that this is something that I didn't have the luxury when I was starting off. But nowadays, with the quality of electronic devices like phones, iPads, my new MacBook, you can record yourself and listen with the music. You know, in my orchestra rep class at Manhattan School, I always talk about this, that you play one fingering and it works for you your entire life, and then you listen to it in a recording and you find a fault. And you'll be out of school and you will not have advice. Think of alternative. Think of options to solve problems. So if you're critical in your mind, not about just saying, "Oh, I suck," but critical about particular spots. You say, "All right, this particular thing is not working. How am I going to fix that?" It's like a little bit like a Sudoku. How am I going to fit this with that? Um, you can do it away from the instrument. You can do a million different ways until you figure it out. But I found, and this is something that I was, honestly, I was proud of myself that I managed to do this, because I won two auditions basically at the Met. I won a section job, and 3 4 years later, whatever it was, for associate principal, with a couple of kids in the house, in very tight schedule, both freelancing and teaching. And I didn't have the time, so I'm not going to tell you go home and practice 8 hours a day, because I don't know. I've never done that. It is about working smart, working patiently, and being always in the zone, listening very carefully to what you do, and very constructively. So never just putting yourself down, but figuring out ways to make things work better for you, because there's always a solution. Even if you doesn't make sense to you. Yeah.
So then with recording yourself, I think
Yes.
a challenge that I feel whenever I hear performances back is I get hypercritical instead of finding solutions like, okay, what can be better is part of it. How do you balance that? Like just the mental juggling of, okay, this is what can be better, with kind of detaching yourself from, oh no, now I'm terrible.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's yeah. So in terms of recording, I suggest two things. This is basically how I deal with recordings. So number one, I record whole excerpts, and I listen to them at the end of the day when I'm exhausted. Generally with a glass of wine, but could be something else. But I have the music with me, I have the recording with me. I'm detached from the practice that I did up to then, and I'm detached also from my instrument, going back to it and digging some more. Okay, so this is kind of like a conclusion of a practice day, going back, listening to a few things. That's number one, and it's okay in a recording like this to make mistakes. It's okay to mess up stuff, um, but you want to listen to the whole thing, see how it carries, you know, with its timing, tempo, phrasing, and occasional little things. The other type of recording that I do is I do, excuse me, during practice. In those, I never do whole excerpts. I would do 2 bars, 3 bars, dealing with a particular situation that is questionable for me.
Mm.
Does this work? Did that work? I play it once. I listen to it. So the idea is that you are still warm. It's still in your fingers. You put on the earphones. You listen to yourself carefully for that particular thing. Oh, this didn't work. Put it away. Practice. Figure out something else. Then you can do it tomorrow. Um, so for me, this detaches it a little bit from the emotional aspect of it, because I know it can be hard. You listen, it's like, when you're preparing an audition tape, that's a different story altogether. Then that's when you start pulling your hairs out with desperation, because you want a take that will be amazing from beginning to end.
Hmm.
But this is about teaching yourself about things that you need to fix, little things.
Which is a big part of it. And I think today you also touched a little bit about singing the notes, which is something I hear recurrently in these master classes, which is fascinating to me. I think, especially as instrumentalists, it's easy to get caught up in the instrument itself instead of singing the lines and like singing through the music.
Yep.
Are there any sort of exercises, aside from actually making ourselves sing, that you recommend that we do to kind of get in the habit of singing phrases or music more?
Exercises. Interesting. I never thought of exercises. If I have, it really depends. I think that the best exercise is just to actually sing. It's so good because I think that also the beauty of singing, and if it's connected to, and I don't have a singing voice. I will not sing except for my daughters. I'm terrified of it. But the idea of singing an interval and singing a note and then going back to the instrument. I know that pianists do that, but there's a connection somewhere in the brain. Again, I'm not that kind of scientist, unfortunately, but there's a connection in the brain that you can make between the pitch and the distance. And if you hear in your mind a note before you get to it, you know where to go. It helps the timing. It helps everything. Um, so yeah, so in that sense of the singing aspect of it, practicing shifts, knowing your fingerboard is very, very important for us. Another thing that's very important for us is knowing how to connect strings and string colors so we can use our instrument like our voice, because each string has a different personality and different sound. So we figure out whether it's the fingering, whether it's pressure with the bow, how much bow, to help us with that phrasing. I think that's, but an actual, like an exercise book, I've
You
not.
just got to do it.
But you know something, you can actually make an exercise out of anything. Um, my old teacher, Pinker Zuckerman, when I started with him in school, he got me doing this thing. I started with him violin, and we did Tchaikovsky concerto. And there's a spot in Tchaikovsky. And what he said, and I use this with my students all the time because it really, really works. Don't think about it as the fast Tchaikovsky concerto. Think about this as like an andante, like a slow thing, and let's practice singing this so it's connecting. The most beautiful sound you can create. As connected, as sustained as you can, and from there it helps you with the fast stuff as well. So it's something that you can do with basically with any string instrument. I don't know with woodwinds or something, but could could work. But for us, a lot of the stuff, the technical stuff that help us find our own voice to show these phrasings that we want to show.
I think that's a, balancing that is, let me rephrase. What happens, I feel, is by the time we get into adding our musical expression into this kind of thing, there's this balance between technical perfection and actually expressing well. And I noticed that came up kind of today a little bit in terms of the balance of rhythm when we're talking about rhythm and keeping it accurate in a couple more places versus all the expression we're adding in. So I guess that's kind of the final question that leads from that singing into keeping that balance. How do you find that balance of the composer's intentions with kind of the expression that we need to add in?
Those are great questions. Really tough questions. Yeah, it's. I think if it's a whole background thing. I think that if it's a composer, like for example, Sharvenka, you know, one of the things I liked about it because I never heard a Sharvenka piece. I never played one, but the style of that period is something that is very obvious to me, and it's a style that is very dear to me. So it's something that yeah, you need to learn the hard stuff, obviously, which Anishka had no problem with the hard stuff, but then you add to it the expression. Um, so if you're familiar with the style, and this is for whatever, if you play a solo piece, if you play orchestral excerpt, whatever, you're familiar with the style in what you want to say with that, and it's something that as you have more experience playing chamber music, playing in orchestra, listening to concerts or recordings, stuff is so available now. You search Sharvenka second string quartet, you'll get a recording. It's amazing, you know. So yeah, I think it's a lot of it has to do with experience and in having a teacher that wants you to do. And I always with my students I always say, try stuff. If it doesn't work, we'll work on it. But I want the performance to be the student's performance and not me telling them what to do. And
Mm.
I think for all of us who studied music, there've been teachers like this and teachers like that. They're teachers that give you the music, say, do this fingering, do this bowing, here it's loud, here it's soft. And then you have the ones that say, all right, you tried to do this did not sound great. Let me help you fix it. Um, so yeah, I think that a teacher's responsibility is to guide a student to find their voice in a piece. Some people need a little bit more guidance, but yeah, I
Well, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to take
the
too much more of your
pleasure.
time today.
Well,
We really appreciate it. And just
thank
thank
you.
you again. Thank you to all of our performers and
Great.
for letting me put you on the spot with all these questions here as I'm just picking your
Not at
brain.
all. Not at all. I'm
Wonderful.
happy
Thank
to
you
discuss.
everyone for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and take care, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.